3 days before my wedding, my mother-in-law called my venue and changed everything. My grandmother made one phone call. By morning, it was all reversed. 18 months of planning. The Rosewood Estate in Oak Park. Every vendor confirmed, every detail chosen with Marcus together. For us. 3 days out, I was checking confirmations. The address was wrong. I checked another vendor. Same wrong address. Someone had changed my venue. The Rosewood coordinator said Emma called Tuesday requesting the switch. I was at work Tuesday. I have the time cards. The voice she described wasn't mine. Who my mill is, what she did, what I did with it, what my grandmother did with one phone call, and why my mill's name is flagged across every vendor in the city. Let me start with my mother-in-law. Because without her, you don't understand what my grandmother did, and without that, you miss the whole thing. Patricia has been planning my wedding since the day Marcus and I got engaged. Real estate agent Oak Brook. She introduces herself with her credentials first. Always. She called Marcus's ex temporary. She arrived with paint swatches before we'd unpacked. She called our engagement party menu a little casual. She believes she is helping. Always. Marcus proposed at the Riverwalk in January. Beautiful, perfect. Within 4 hours of the post, Patricia had emailed a guest list. 187 people. We hadn't discussed anything. Marcus is a software developer. He loves his mother. He also knows exactly who she is. When I tell him Patricia did something, he says, "Okay, what do we fix?" Never. Are you sure? Grandma Rose ran Midwest telecom operations for 22 years. She knows every vendor contact, every industry relationship in a 100-mile radius. She does not raise her voice. She said, "The person who stays calm in the room controls the room." I was 10 years old. I have remembered it every single day since. It's why I said nothing. Marcus grew up driving past the Rosewood Estate. He said, that place always looked like somewhere something important happens. We signed the contract in February. 18 months out, Patricia came to the venue tour, said, a little intimate for 187 guests. We had told her the guest list was 90. 3 separate times. She continued planning for 187. The Elmwood seats 220. It has a stage, a cash bar, no garden. Patricia knew the events manager there. That is the entire reason. Our wedding didn't factor in. She called using my name, used my booking reference from an invoice she'd seen. She impersonated me to cancel my own venue. That is not overstepping. That is fraud. Marcus shared the invoice in the family group chat, proud we'd secured the venue. Patricia screenshotted it. Used the reference number 7 months later. She had been waiting. It wasn't just the venue. She emailed the florist with a layout change. She called the caterer, different menu, more guests. She'd been running a parallel wedding plan for months. I didn't call Patricia. Didn't call Marcus first. I sat for 4 minutes. I thought, the person who stays calm controls the room. Then I called my grandmother. Rose listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Do you want this fixed or do you want this documented?" I said both. She said, "Give me until morning." Rose called David Chen, the Rosewood's owner. She'd known him 15 years. She used the phrase, fraudulent impersonation of a client. David listened. David Chen reversed the cancellation that night, restored my booking, waived the fee, and flagged the impersonation in his system. By 11 p.m., my venue was restored. Rose's second call, the Chicago Wedding Vendors Association. She'd served on the advisory board 11 years. She reported the fraud with documentation. Rose always documents. The flag goes to every member vendor in the city venues, caterers, florists, photographers, planners. It says reported for fraudulent impersonation. They decide. Most made the same decision. I woke up to restoration emails from every vendor, everything back in order. I read them 3 times. No drama, No confrontation. Just fixed. That's Rose. I showed Marcus the evidence. He went quiet. Then, my mother called your venue pretending to be you. I said yes. He said, what do we need to do before Saturday? That's Marcus. Patricia denied it for 45 seconds. Marcus told her about the call log from her office number. She stopped denying it, said she did it for the family. The wedding you deserved. I called Patricia and said, I know what you did. The venue is restored. The vendors are corrected. We'll see you at the Rosewood on Saturday. I hung up. Rose had said the rest. The Rosewood Estate in September. Garden ceremony. Marcus said it always looked like somewhere important things happen. He was right. The ceremony was 24 minutes. Perfect. Patricia attended. Front row. Ivory dress, not quite white, absolutely a statement. She smiled for photos, congratulated us warmly, didn't mention the venue. She didn't know about the flag yet. The reception, their ballroom, their 90 guests, their menu, their playlist. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was rightness. Everything exactly where it was supposed to be. Rose invited David Chen to the wedding as a thank you. He brought good wine. He said, your grandmother is the most useful person I know. That is Rose in one sentence. 3 weeks after the wedding, Patricia called a venue for a client dinner. They told her there was an advisory flag on her name. She called Marcus confused. She didn't understand why. Patricia said, I was trying to help. Marcus said, you called a venue pretending to be my wife. She said, I didn't think it would cause all this. That is her entire relationship with consequence. The flag is advisory, not a ban. But her first choice venues stopped taking her calls. Her florist of 7 years said they were at capacity. For 7 years. Then, at capacity. My mother said, your grandmother was always the one you wanted in your corner when it counted. Not because she's loud, because she knows which calls to make. She was right. Patricia made one unauthorized call and created chaos. Rose made 2 authorized calls and created order. The most effective response to noise is the right phone call. That's the lesson. 1 month married. We argue about the thermostat. We agree on Sunday breakfast. Marcus makes coffee. I make eggs. We have never disagreed about eggs. It is very good. Patricia and I have spoken 4 times since the wedding. She hasn't apologized. She's said, I hope there are no hard feelings twice. Those are different things. No rearranging since. Progress. Has someone ever overridden a decision that was yours out of certainty they knew better? And did someone in your corner make a quiet call that fixed it? Drop it in comments. I want to show you the full picture. What she built wasn't impulsive. She had been building it for months. It had a structure. Let me show you what it looked like. 11 months out, Patricia was attending bridal expos separately, collecting vendor cards, telling vendors she was assisting with her son's wedding. She was building a database of alternatives. Patricia had used the Elmwood for 4 client events. Direct line to the manager. She told him she expected to redirect her son's wedding there if the original venue fell through. She intended to make it fall through. Marcus shared the invoice in the chat. Patricia screenshotted it. Within minutes, read receipt shows it then went quiet. She went quiet because she was saving the number. That's the timeline. Patricia created a Gmail with my first name, emailed the florist a new layout 6 days before the wedding, new colors, more arrangements, consistent with the Elmwood's floor plan. She had the floor plan. Patricia called the caterer as me. New menu, 160 guests instead of 90. She was asked to confirm allergies, said she'd send them. Never did. She didn't have the allergy list. For 3 days, Patricia didn't know I knew. Didn't know about Rose's calls. Didn't know about the flag. She was waiting to walk into the Elmwood. We were getting married at the Rosewood. The morning of the wedding, Patricia got the logistics email. It said, Rosewood Estate. She called Marcus. He said, "We know what you did. We'll see you at the Rosewood." Best thing he has ever said. The Rosewood coordinator noted the cancellation call felt off-confident on logistics, uncertain on sentimental details. When asked about ceremony readings, the standard ones, Emma had written theirs herself. We used Marcus's grandfather's letter from 1962 as the ceremony opening. Patricia had never heard it. She didn't know it existed. She can't plan a wedding for people whose history she doesn't know. I asked Rose, "Did you know it would work?" She said, "I knew David would correct the record. The vendor flag was their decision. I only reported what happened." She told the truth to the right people. In Sedona, Marcus said, "Day 2, I want to talk about my mother. Not today." Day 3, same. "Not today." Day 4, I said, "Maybe tomorrow." Day 6, we talked. Sedona had been patient enough. Marcus said, "My mother lives where wanting something a certain way makes it okay to make it that way." He said, "I should have intercepted the invoice." I said, "Being proud of your deposit isn't a flaw." In Sedona, we decided Marcus handles Patricia directly. I don't run interference. If she contacts me about anything event-related, I forward it to him. A team, not a relay race. I called Rose from Sedona. She said, "I did what needed doing. You stayed calm." I asked, "How did you know David would act?" She said, "Professionals respond to documented impersonation." That's the whole answer. Rose's lesson: your network is only as useful as your reputation is clean and your documentation is thorough. She had both. That's what one phone call requires. 6 months later, the flag is still active. Reviewed annually, downgraded after 18 months with no incidents. Patricia has been quiet on all vendor activity for 6 months. Verifiable. I framed the restoration confirmation from the Rosewood, hung it in my office. Your booking has been restored to full standing. Not because I'm still angry. Because it reminds me what calm can do. Marcus saw the frame, said, "You framed a hotel booking confirmation." I said, "Venue." He said, "You'll have to explain this to everyone." I said, "I can manage." He hasn't asked me to take it down. Patricia had built a complete alternative wedding for months, used impersonation, believed she was helping. The hardest part is she believed that. At the end of the night, Marcus said, "My grandfather would have liked this venue." I said, "Tell me about him." He talked for 45 minutes on the drive home. Best part of the day. We ordered Thai and ate it on the couch in our wedding clothes at midnight. That was our wedding night. I would not change a single thing about it. I gave Rose a restored photo of her team at the telecom 20-year dinner. Said, "This is where you built the reputation that made one call sufficient." She said, "That's a good frame." Her entire response. A friend asked, "Will Patricia ever understand what she did wrong?" I said, "She understands there were consequences. She doesn't understand she caused them." That's the gap. Marcus said, "She experiences consequences as things that happen to her, not things that result from her choices." That's why the flag confused her. It landed outside her own narrative. I'll tell our kids. Great-grandma ran telecom operations for 22 years. She knew everyone. She made one phone call. Then she went to bed. That's the part. No drama. That's the goal. Rose volunteers 2 mornings a week, teaching seniors digital tools at the Naperville Library. She says teaching a 70-year-old to video call their grandchild is the most useful thing she does. I told Rose I was sharing this story. She said, "Make sure you say David Chen was helpful." Then, "Do you want to hear about the library's new tablet program?" Problem solved. Always moving on. The restoration email says, "Your reservation has been restored to full standing, effective immediately, with our sincerest apologies for any confusion." Any confusion. David Chen is a diplomat. Marcus figured out I like it 2 degrees warmer. He put a blanket on his side of the couch. That's the entire thermostat solution. 6 months married, he solved it without asking for a meeting. What I carry? Preparation is power. Rose spent 22 years building relationships correctly. That preparation was the phone call. The call was just the delivery. Prepare correctly, and the call is easy. Marcus asked 6 weeks after, "Do you want to rebuild with my mother?" I said, "I want to be a good daughter-in-law to the mill she's capable of being." "I don't know what that is yet." He said, "That's fair." Christmas at Patricia's. She had asked Marcus what my favorite dish was weeks before. Made it from scratch. Put it directly in front of me. She asked. She learned. I ate every bite. The dish wasn't an apology. But she had to ask Marcus what I liked. She had to accept she didn't know. For Patricia, not knowing is uncomfortable. She accepted the discomfort. That's something. I told Rose about the dish. She said, "Patricia asked Marcus what you liked?" Paused. Then, that's useful. She can learn, she just usually doesn't bother. Most specific assessment of Patricia I've heard. I went back to the Rosewood alone. Stood in the garden. Patricia tried to take this place from us. She didn't. It is still here. We were still married here. That's the whole thing. I told Marcus I'd gone back. He went quiet. Then, I should go too. And quietly, my grandfather drove past it when he was a kid. I didn't know he knew. He'd been carrying that connection. Marcus's grandfather drove past the Rosewood as a kid. Marcus grew up knowing it. When we chose it, he just knew it was right. Patricia tried to replace 70 years of his family's history with her client venue. Patricia didn't know about Marcus's grandfather. Our ceremony readings. My allergies. Rose's network. She planned a wedding for people she didn't know. That's the verdict on the parallel plan. Rose said, "The mistake most people make is planning for the event instead of the people." Patricia planned for an event. She had no idea who the people were. Plan for the people. My phone wallpaper is the head table photo. Not because of the dress, because of the rosewood garden through the window. Patricia's parallel plan had no window like that. She didn't plan 4 windows. I keep a contact list differently now. I note who responds reliably, who documents, who follows through. I call it my Rose list. Rose said, "What else would you call it?" as if obvious. Marcus, crisis goes very quiet, then very methodical. Emma goes very still, calls Rose. Different crisis styles, fully compatible. 6 months teaches you what's compatible. Rose told me, "When I'm gone, my 40-year contact directory is yours. Use it responsibly." I said, "I will." She said, "I know. That's why it's yours." She's already decided she knows me well enough. The directory means she has been watching me specifically like she watched her operations reports. She's been deciding if I'm the person for 40 years of professional trust. She decided, yes. Rose's directory criteria: they return calls, they do what they say, and when they make a mistake, they call me before I call them. 3 criteria. 40 years, never lowered the bar. By Rose's criteria, Patricia should have called me before the venue, not instead. Said, "Here's what I think, what do you need?" and waited for the answer. Patricia does not wait for answers. Who is your Rose? Who in your corner doesn't raise their voice or make a scene but knows exactly which call to make? Tell me about them. Or if you're still looking, drop that too. There's more. First Thanksgiving with the full family. Rose on regrets. The Vendor Association update. What Marcus said at 6 months. This is where we started. 3 days out. The wrong venue on my phone. My grandmother's call, not yet made. By morning 1 call later, the Rosewood was ours. I asked Rose, "Do you have any regrets about the flag?" She was quiet. Then I regret that it was necessary. She didn't regret the action, she regretted the conditions that made it correct. Rose meant if Patricia had only overstepped the flag would be wrong. But she impersonated Emma. That made documentation necessary. Without fraud, family conflict. With fraud, professional incident. Rose said, Patricia is not bad. She's never been told no by the right person at the right moment. This was the right moment. I was the right person. The flag was the right way. Thanksgiving at Patricia's. She had name cards. She'd researched dietary preferences correctly this time. She labeled the dishes. She had the allergy list. She did the work of knowing her guests. For one Thanksgiving dinner, Patricia asked before she acted, confirmed the menu, asked about seating. She operated by Rose's third criterion for one dinner. One dinner completely different from before. In the kitchen at Thanksgiving, Patricia said, I understand I made things very difficult. She said it to the pie, not looking at me. But she said it. I said, thank you, Patricia. Driving home, I told Marcus about the kitchen. He said, I know she told me she was going to. He'd coached her quietly, said, you have something to say, gave her a prompt. That's Marcus. 6 months later, the CWVA sent a letter, flag maintained, active, and one additional vendor had filed a corroborating report. Someone else had experienced something similar. The flag made it safe to report. The corroborating report, 14 months before Emma's incident, someone matching the description contacted a vendor impersonating a client. Rescheduled an event without the client's knowledge. Not the first time. I told Marcus about the corroborating report. He went quiet. Said, this explains a client dinner 2 years ago that ended up at a different restaurant than he'd booked. He'd never connected it. Marcus asked Patricia about the client dinner 2 years ago. She confirmed calmly yes, she'd called the restaurant. The one he'd booked wasn't good enough for the client he deserved. Marcus said, I've been letting her do this for years because I couldn't see the pattern from inside it. The flag made the pattern visible. Rose documented what I couldn't see. I told Rose about Marcus's realization. She said, I suspected that might be the case. People who override others' choices rarely limit it to one person. I filed for Emma. I hoped it would help Marcus too. David Chen sent a handwritten card. I hope the day was everything you planned. Your grandmother makes things right. I read it to Rose. She said, tell him the library could use a tech sponsor. David Chen knew someone. Made an introduction. The library received 12 refurbished tablets. Rose taught the first senior digital literacy session using them. She solved the wedding. Then she got 12 tablets. One correct action in a well-maintained network creates effects you can't predict. Rose fixed my venue, helped Marcus see his pattern, protected an unknown client, got 12 library tablets. One call. Patricia found out about the tablet program and called Rose wanting to donate. Rose said, we accept donations through the Library Foundation. Not, thank you, just the information. Efficient. Patricia donated 3 weeks later. Rose confirmed it without commentary. I asked, what do you think? Rose said, the library got a donation. That's what I think. No drama, no credit, just a donation. 6 months in, Marcus handles Patricia on events and decisions. If she reaches out to me about anything household adjacent, I forward it with one word, yours. That word has saved 4 conversations. Marcus said, forwarding those messages is correctly identifying whose problem it is. My mother is my problem in this specific way. That doesn't make her your problem. He means it. He does the work. Marcus went back to the Rosewood alone 3 months after. Said, I thought about my grandfather, then my mother, then I stopped thinking about my mother. He stopped in the right order. Rose called Marcus directly to ask about his software project. They talked 40 minutes. She asked 3 sophisticated technical questions. Marcus said, "I like your grandmother." "Emma, everyone does," Rose told me. Marcus asks follow-up questions, the second one, because he wants to know, not because he's supposed to. That is rarer than it sounds. I have never felt more sure of my marriage. Patricia's parallel plan cost her preferred vendor relationships, the illusion of invisibility, December's family dynamics, and the version of herself she believed she was the helpful one. Patricia believed she made things better. After the flag, she had to hold the possibility she'd been making things worse and calling it better. Uncomfortable. I have some sympathy for the discomfort, not the fraud. Before hard meetings, I look at the framed restoration email, not as a talisman, as a reminder. One calm decision and the right call changes the whole situation. It works. The Rosewood means Marcus's grandfather's passing view, our choice together, Patricia's target, Rose's restoration, and the garden where we made a decision I have not for 1 second regretted. Patricia, complete parallel plan, twice used impersonation, genuine belief she helped. The flag told the professional truth. 1 documented report became 4 positive outcomes. Act 4, what made that possible? Act 4 is not about what Rose did Tuesday night. It's about what she'd been doing for 22 years that made Tuesday simple. The preparation is the story. The call was just the moment it was used. Rose's principle: I never called anyone for a favor I hadn't earned. Every call backed by something already done or documented that protects both of us. Not a network, a record of mutual reliability. Rose met David Chen 15 years ago on a procurement committee. She visited his venue, gave detailed written feedback. He implemented 2 suggestions. That's how a 15-year relationship begins: useful feedback acted on. Before the call, Rose had sent David 3 corporate events, a speaker connection, 2 recommendations. The call drew on 15 years of deposits. 15 years of deposits. 1 withdrawal. Rose joined the CWVA advisory board 11 years ago because a client asked. Operations expertise needed. She served 11 years. Missed 2 meetings. That's how you earn the right to a report that's taken seriously. 2 prior accurate reports in 11 years. Then a 3rd with documentation. The association acted promptly. Not because of frequency, because of precision. She had a track record of precision. Rose said, documentation is not paranoia. It's the professional responsibility of someone who operates in systems that matter. No record, no recourse. A record, options. She documented for options. The Rosewood's booking system logs every call timestamp, duration, caller ID. David pulled the Tuesday log, Patricia's real estate office number. She'd called from her office. Her office number. Marcus, she didn't think it would be checked. Her office number calling a venue looks normal. She does it for client events. She was right, it looked normal, wrong that it wouldn't be checked. Rose told David, facts in sequence. Someone impersonated my granddaughter Tuesday. Here is the booking reference. Here is what I believe occurred. Here is what I would like you to review. She did not tell him what to do. I asked Rose, what did you do after the calls? She said, I made chamomile tea and went to bed. I said, you went to bed? She said, staying awake would have been indulgent. 2 calls. Then sleep. Every Christmas Rose sent contacts a relevant article she'd read that year useful. Not flattery. For 22 years, David Chen keeps every article she sent him. That is how 1 call becomes sufficient. Patricia, proximity and persistence shows up, determines what's useful. Rose, consistency and documentation, shows up reliably, does what she says, records it. Proximity versus consistency. That's the difference. My Rose list has grown 12 people in 6 months. Each earned entry, returned a call same day, did what they said, or caught a mistake and told me before I found it. The third is hardest to earn. Every Tuesday, 12 to 12:30. Whoever calls first, usually Emma. Work. Reading. The library. Industry. Sometimes Patricia. Usually not. There are more interesting things. That's the goal. Last Tuesday, Rose told me about a senior patron who video called her daughter in Portland for the first time 2 hours. Rose said, "That's what we do this for. Same certainty as the call to David Chen." Marcus, at 6 months, you handled my mother by staying calm and calling your grandmother. You didn't yell, demand I choose, or make it about us. You fixed it quietly. I said, "Rose fixed it." He said, "You made the call." Marcus meant you had options: call him, call Patricia, unravel. You chose to call the person who could fix it. Grandma Rose is that person. I knew that. I called. That's the whole thing. The quiet plan: build the network correctly 22 years, document everything 11 years advisory board, know your contacts deeply 15 years with David, stay calm, make the right call, go to sleep. It was quiet because the professional system runs on documentation and relationships, not emotion. David Chen needed a fact and a call log, not a performance. A fact and a call log was enough. The loud plan: confront Patricia, demand apology, make Marcus choose, post about it, all understandable. None of it would have restored the Rosewood booking by morning. The booking was the goal. Staying calm required not calling Marcus for 45 minutes, not texting Patricia, not venting to friends, sitting at the kitchen table for 4 minutes, deciding the first move. That was hard. Rose, first crisis, reacted immediately, made it worse. Second, waited 12 hours, resolved partially. Third, waited, called the right person. Ever since, waiting and calling the right person. That's the practice. The quiet plan accomplished, venue restored by 11 p.m., professional flag, prior client protected, 12 library tablets. Marcus saw his pattern, Rose and David's renewed connection. 6 outcomes. 1 call. 22 years. I now send a useful article to 3 people per month from my Rose list. Started 4 months ago. 2 told me it led to a connection they needed. Rose has done this for 22 years. I'm just starting. That's okay. The directory is 40 years of relationship history. Who is reliable? Who was met where? Who implements feedback? Every article sent and whether it was received and acted on. She tracks all of it. Rose's instruction: when you receive the directory, read every entry before making 1 call. They know me, they'll know immediately if you don't know them. Take the time to know them first. Patricia is in therapy, she told Marcus. He told me with her permission. Working on what she calls the need to manage outcomes. Accurate words. I hope she finds the right practice to match them. She manages outcomes because she doesn't trust them to unfold correctly without her. The venue will be wrong, the menu wrong, the restaurant not good enough. The root isn't cruelty, it's fear. I have sympathy for Patricia. Living with fear that people you love will choose badly without you exhausting. She's been exhausting herself for decades over outcomes that were never hers to control. I told Marcus about my sympathy for Patricia. He said, "You're more generous than I am right now." I said, "You're allowed. She's your mother who committed fraud against your wife." I said, "Take your time." The quiet plan: 22 years of showing up reliably, 1 calm call, 6 outcomes. And still producing tablets, Tuesday calls, a directory being prepared. It doesn't stop. That's a well-maintained network. On our anniversary, we drove past the Rosewood, another wedding visible. I thought, the coordinator knows what happened here last September. She doesn't talk about it. But she knows. The record exists. Anniversary dinner at the Rosewood. Private dining. The same coordinator recognized my name, said, "So glad you were with us last year." She knew what she meant. So did we. We had the soup. Rose and David Chen were at the Rosewood the same evening she'd booked separately without telling us. Sent a bottle of wine to our table. Card, "You chose well." 3 words. A bottle of wine. That's Rose. David came to our table. Said, "Your grandmother told me about your grandfather driving past this place as a boy." We found a photograph from 1958 of the estate. I've had a copy made for you. The 1958 photograph, the Rosewood taken from the road, the driver's angle. The way Marcus's grandfather would have seen it driving past. Marcus held that photograph for a long time. Marcus said, "This is the view my grandfather had his whole life, thinking that looks like somewhere important things happen. We made something important happen. Now I have his view of it." The 1958 photograph is framed next to the restoration email above my desk. The email, what Rose did. The photograph, why the venue mattered. Both necessary. Both tell me something different every morning. Every morning, left booking restored to full standing. Write the Rosewood from the road, 1958. On the laptop, the Rose list. 12 entries in 6 months. That's the whole reminder. 159 clips building toward one thing, what it means that someone built 22 years of reliability and used one withdrawal to give her granddaughter her wedding back. I'll tell Rose, "You didn't just restore a venue. You showed me that quiet isn't passive, preparation isn't invisible. One call can change everything if the preparation is done." Not what Rose fixed, what she gave me. Not the venue, what it represents. Not the flag, what it means to have someone who builds for 22 years and uses it once, quietly, for you. This is where we started. The wrong venue. 3 days out. And this email in my inbox by morning because of one call. That's file 2. File 3 tells you what the call was made of. Marcus asked if he could add someone to the Rose list. I told him the criteria. He listed them back correctly. He added 1 person. Marcus has a Rose list now. He doesn't call it that. Patricia's therapy, she's practicing the pause before the action. Not smooth. She called Marcus 3 times before confirming Christmas dinner. He said exhausting. Emma said, "That's practice." Rose last Tuesday, a man named Gerald Video called his granddaughter in Austin by himself, remembered from last week, and did it without help. Rose said, "That's the whole goal. He did it himself." The Rose list, 19 people at 8 months, 16 articles sent, 3 useful connections. 1 person caught a contract error before I signed. They earned the 3rd criterion. Rose, 22 years. I understand the number now. The wedding video shows the garden through the ballroom windows during cocktail hour, September light. I watched and thought, the Elmwood had no garden. Patricia didn't plan for the garden. Rose is 74, had a knee replacement 2 years ago, uses a cane on bad days. Every Tuesday I ask about the knee. She says, "It's doing what it does." Brief report. She doesn't dwell. Consistent. When I receive the directory, I'll read every entry, understand each person, add them to my list noting the origin, and send a useful article within 30 days. Rose sends annually. I'll start by introducing myself. 8 months, Marcus has clarity. Patricia is practicing the pause. Rose is at the library. David Chen has tablets there. Emma is building her list. Everyone is doing something slowly better. I'll take slowly better. The wedding taught me someone will always try to manage what is yours. Your job isn't to fight the pattern, it's to be so prepared the pattern cannot hold. File 3 says it fully. Next Tuesday I'm asking Rose, in the early years before anyone knew who you were, how did you stay consistent when it felt like no one was noticing? That's the stage I'm in. I want to know how she held it. I predict Rose will say, You stay consistent not because someone notices, but because you're building a record for yourself. You need to know who you are before anyone else does. The noticing comes later. Year 1. Learning who you are with this specific person. Marcus learned I need 30 minutes quiet after work. I learned he thinks out loud at 6 a.m. and I need earplugs or full engagement. No middle ground. Rose, the secret to marriage is deciding early you absorb small things so big things have room. Emma, what are the big things? Rose, you'll know when they're yours. I think about that at 6 a.m. The restoration email says, following a review and a conversation with a long-valued professional contact, your reservation is restored to full standing. We look forward to hosting you. Long-valued contact, that's Rose. The CWVA, 340 member vendors, about 12 incident reports per year, 4 active flags annually. Rose's was one of 4. A system used rarely is taken seriously. Constant use becomes noise. Full inventory, the marriage I planned, the venue we chose, the rose list, the framed email, the 1958 photograph, clearer relationship with Marcus, therapy attending Mill, Tuesday calls, the directory waiting. What I don't have, full relationship with Patricia, certainty she won't repeat it, the directory, Marcus at full peace with his mother. Open items. Rose would call them that, not failures, neither do I. What Rose gave me that isn't in any phone call, any email, any directory. What she gave me that isn't in any of those things. I asked Rose, how did you stay consistent before anyone noticed? She was quiet. Then I noticed. I asked her to say more. She said, that was enough. 2 words. That was her complete answer. Rose meant she kept her own record of her own reliability. Every call returned, every promise kept, every mistake reported first. She noticed. External recognition was irrelevant. Her record was primary. That afternoon, I added a column to my Rose list I hadn't had, not what others did, what I did. Did I return calls same day? Did I do what I said? Did I report mistakes first? My own record. The Rose list now has 3 sections: names and earned criteria, the article log with acknowledgement tracking, and the self-accountability column, my own record of how I showed up. 8 months, 40 years builds differently. Looking back, 3 calls returned next morning instead of same day. 1 document sent 2 days late. I noted them, not to punish myself, to know the gaps. You can't close gaps you haven't named. I told Rose about the self-accountability column. She said, that's the work. I said, knowing the gaps? She said, going back and naming them. Most people track successes. The gaps teach more. The directory has a gap log, what Rose could have done better in each relationship, not what others did wrong, her own gaps. 40 years of her own gaps. I will inherit that too. The gap log means the directory isn't a record of perfection, it's a record of someone trying to be reliable for 40 years, including every time she fell short. More honest than perfect. That's why I trust it. 9 months of therapy. In March, Patricia called me directly, not Marcus, to ask if she could host a spring dinner. She asked if it was okay. She waited for the answer. First time. Right order. I said yes without qualification, without conditions, without anything attached. Patricia seemed surprised, according to Marcus. She expected conditions. There were none. A yes is a yes. The spring dinner, Patricia confirmed every preference in advance. She asked about flowers fragrant or neutral. She waited for every answer before acting. The dinner was very good. The flowers were neutral. I told Rose about the dinner. She asked what flowers, white ranunculus, neutral. She said correct fragrant ones interfere with food. I said, that's not the point. Rose said, no, but it's not nothing. Rose has started mentioning things she wants me to know in passing. She's prearranged her estate. The library knows where her files are. She is organizing herself. Consistent. Preparing for the next part. I said, "You don't have to tell me on the phone." "Rose, I know I'm telling you because you should have the information, not because I need a response." "Okay. Good." Then she told me about
The
Gerald.
word arrived.
Underneath all the tactics,
Rose
outcomes,
witnessed my problem.
lessons, one
She
thing
saw
is
it
different
exactly,
from everything
then acted
else.
on exactly
Not
what
the
she
phone
saw.
call, not the
Witnessed.
flag,
She saw it exactly,
not
and
the
she
directory.
acted exactly what she
It
saw.
means that someone
Why
spent
witnessed
22
is
years
the
of
right word.
reliability on you.
Fixed implies the problem was
Rose spent
broken. Help
22
supported
years of
implies
built
it needed help.
reliability on my
Witnessed
wedding
winging it,
venue
but the
on a
sat
Tuesday
duac
night
is what
with
Rose did.
chamomile tea
I saw
and
exactly
then
what's
sleep.
happened. I am not treating.
She
I saw
treated my
exactly
problem
what
as worthy
happened.
of her
Not
best resource.
confused. Treating it with the
More
seriousness it
specific than
deserves.
gratitude.
Act 5. The real
3
verdict.
weeks
I
after
said
the
in
wedding
file it
on
was
a
not
walk,
about
the
the
word
kahad
arrived,
pedestal,
witnessed.
wings to witness
Rose
critically.
witnessed.
A
My
credible
problem
witness
didn't
has to have seen
minimize or
enough to know what
inflate
they're
it.
looking at.
Saw it exactly
Rose had
as
seen
it was,
professional
then
impersonation
acted
before.
on
She knew exactly what had
saw.
happened because she knew her system
Fixed
trust
implies
Finnick.
broken. Helped implies need.
3 days before my
Supported
wedding, at the
implies
kitchen table,
possible
I had
collapse.
evidence on my phone who had just
Witnessed
discovered that
means
someone
I saw
had
exactly what
attempted to
happened.
take some
I'm
money.
not
I was
confused
credited
about it,
happened.
and I'm treating it
That
with
is
the
a very
seriousness
moral
it
recession.
deserves.
After the call, I was
Act
still
5.
someone who had
The
been
real
wronged,
verdict.
but I was no
Not
longer
the
alone
codicil,
with it.
not the
Regos
flag,
verhouden de fane
not the
as it were
directory.
exactly as serious. I
What
can
it
say it's your
means to be
resign to
witnessed by
stay.
someone
That
who
changes
built
thing.
22 years
What
to
you
make
are
the witness
correct
credible.
does.
The
When a
credibility
credible
was
witness
the gift.
confirms your
A
reading,
credible
they lend
witness has
credibility
to have
to your
seen
perception.
enough to know what they're
What
looking
you
at.
see happy
Rose had
has
encountered
dim
professional impersonation before.
Rose
She
gave
knew
me 3
exactly
things.
what had happened.
Confirmation that my
22
reading was
years of
correct.
seeing.
A model of
Before the
building
call,
something
I was
useful.
someone who knew
The
something
Nizlas that
had
I'm
been
someone
taken
she
from
chose
me,
to witness
but had
and
only my
protect.
own assessment
Someone
that
worth
I was
that.
correct.
What worth
No
that
external
means.
confirmation.
It means Rose
Knowing
spent
something
22
happened
years
with
building
only your
something,
own
and when the
word for
moment
it.
came, she chose spend
After
on
the call, I'd been
meditation
wronged,
cost and she
but was no
acted.
longer alone
That
with
is
it.
Eviv.
Rose had heard everything
real
and
verdict.
responded as if it
The
were
real
exactly
verdict, my
as
mother-in-law
serious as I
attempted to
understood.
right in his
She
right and
confirmed
tedder
my
was
reading.
said,
That
and mine
changes
and Anvor
everything.
rap is to
For
it.
2 years, Patricia's
She
behavior
failed.
had been
Why
minimized.
Patricia
That's
couldn't
just how
win.
she is.
Her plan relied
She
on a world
means
where no
well.
one credible
She
would
doesn't
respond,
realize.
where vendors wouldn't report it,
Every
and where I had no
response
one to
minimized
call.
it.
She planned
Rose's
for a
was the
list out
first that
Rose.
didn't.
Rose exists.
You are
Could
correct.
she have known?
That's all I needed.
Yes,
When a
Rose is
credible
Emma's
witness
grandmother.
confirms
Rose's
your reading,
professional
they
history is
lend
not
their
a see. If
credibility
Patricia had
to
done
your
the work of
perception.
knowing the people she was
They
planning
say,
for, the
"I've
work she
seen enough
refused
to
to do,
know
she
what
would have
you
known
see
that
is
Emma
what I
had
see.
someone like Rose.
Your perception
Knowledge
is
1.
accurate.
My reading of what
That
happened
cannot
was
be bought.
correct. Patricia impersonated me to
Rose
change
gave me
my
3
venue. I was
things.
not overreacting. I was
Confirmation my
documented
reading was
professional
correct.
impersonation.
A
That knowledge
model
is
of
filed
building
and
something
permanent.
that becomes useful
Knowledge
when
2.
needed.
Quiet,
And the
prepared
knowledge that
responses
I'm
to
someone
professional
she chose
fraud
to
are more
witness
effective
worth
than
that.
loud confrontational ones.
Worth that
Patricia's
means
plan was neutralized
Rose
not through
spent 22
confrontation but through
years
2
building
accurate phone
something
calls made
and
every time
spent
I
it on
attempted to
Emma
react
without
loudly.
hesitation.
Knowledge
No
3.
cost-benefit analysis. No
I know
weighing.
what that means now.
She heard it and acted.
I have someone in my
Unconditional
corner who
credibility.
built 22
The
years
real
to be the
verdict,
right
my mill
person to
attempted
call.
to override our decision.
Knowing
She
Rose
failed
built
not
this
because she was
foundation
caught
changed
or we
how I
fought
move
her,
through the world.
but because someone who
I
spent
stay
22
calm,
years
not
building
inactive.
correctly
I build
witnessed the attempt
quietly, know
and
its
spent her
power.
credibility to correct
I'm
it.
less
Patricia's
afraid to be
plan
seen.
required
What I am
no
building is a
credible
Rose
professional
list that
to
will take
respond,
decades to reach
no
Rose
vendor
level.
reporting
A
mechanism,
marriage where Marcus
no
and
one
I
for Emma
witness
to
each
call
other
who understood
accurately.
the landscape.
A professional reputation
None
where
of
my
those
word
were
is
true.
is. That's the full
She
arc.
planned for a world
What
without
Marcus
Rose.
will build.
Could Patricia have known about Rose? Yes, if she'd done the work of
His
knowing the people she
version
was
of the
planning
Rose
for.
list.
Rose's professional history
I hope Patricia
isn't
builds the
secret.
habit
The
of
work she
asking
refused
before
cost
acting.
her the plan.
One meal at a
Knowledge
time,
1.
one phone
My
call
reading
at a
was
time,
correct.
one paused first plan,
Patricia
the spring dinner,
impersonated me
the
to
Thanksgiving
change
dinner
my
was
venue.
one.
Not
I hope it gets to
overreacting,
22
not
carats.
uncharitable,
She wrote a
not
one-page letter.
paranoid.
Not about what she had
Accurately
done,
reading a
about what she had
documented
seen Emma
impersonation.
do. She wrote, you stayed
Filed
calm, you
and
called the right
permanent.
person, you said
Knowledge
nothing to
2.
Patricia, what
Quiet,
needed to
prepared
be unsaid.
responses
You
to
are
professional
bad.
fraud are more
The
effective
letter
than
in the
loud
drawer.
confrontation.
Rose's words
Patricia's
don't
plan
shrink.
was neutralized
One
by 2
permanent,
accurate calls
accurate
from someone
note.
whose reputation backed every every word. Knowledge 3. I have someone
I
who
want to
built
ask you
22
something.
years to be the
Who in
right
your life
person
has an
to
incredible
call
witness
and
for you?
chose to
Someone
use
who
it
saw
for
what
me.
was happening accurately and
have to earn
responded
it
with the
in the
serious
moment.
it deserved
She
without
built
drama,
it.
without making it about
She
herself.
chose. I know what that means now.
We're almost
Knowledge
at the
3
end.
changed me.
I want to tell you the
More
last
willing
thing, and then
to
I want
stay
to show you where we
calm
started.
isn't inaction.
Because this story started in
More
a kitchen
willing
with
to
the wrong
build
venue on a
quietly,
phone.
I've seen what it produces.
And it ends in the same kitchen.
Less afraid of
But
accurate
something is
witness
different. The
because
same
Rose
kitchen,
already
the
witnessed
same
me.
phone, the
I
same
am building
wrong venue.
a rose list
Something
that
is
takes decades,
different.
a marriage
Emma
of
with the
accurate
people at
witness,
comes.
a
She has been
professional
watching me
reputation
build.
where my
She
word
is
is
still
what I say,
watching. The final statement
and building
begins.
toward giving the directory
My
to
other-in-law
someone
secretly
who's earned
changed
it.
my wedding venue 3
Marcus
days
is
before
building
my
a
wedding.
clearer
She used my name,
relationship with his
booking
mother,
reference, and her
a
own
network
phone. She had been
maintained like his
building a
code,
parallel
and a
plan for
marriage where his
months.
quiet
My grandmother is a
reliability is the
retired
thing that makes
telecommunications
everything
executive
work.
from Naperville,
His
Illinois.
version of
She
the
spent
rose
22
list.
years building
I hope
relationships that
Patricia
are
builds
clean,
the
documented, and
habit of
mutual.
asking
She was the
before
right
acting,
person to
one meal
call.
at a
I
time,
called her.
one call at a time,
By
one
morning, my
paused
venue
plan
was
at a time.
restored. By the following week, the
Thanksgiving was
professional
one,
network had been
spring
formed,
dinner
and
was
by the
one.
team, the ice in the
Slow,
garden of the
but
Rosewood
counted.
Estate,
2
and
months
Marinette
after
did
the
this
wedding, Rose sent a
exactly to
handwritten
his
letter,
Nancy
not about what she
The
did,
Rosewood
about
Estate
what
in
she
Oak
saw
Park,
Emma do. She wrote,
where Marcus's
"You are
grandfather
someone I
drove
am
past
glad I
as a
built something
boy,
for. I have read it many times.
where we got married,
Rose's letter is in my desk
where her
drawer,
through
not
was
framed.
mended.
It's private.
Left,
Not
what
filed.
Rose did.
It's not professional.
Center, what she said I
Taken
was
out when
worth.
needed.
Right,
Taken out 3
why
times.
the venue mattered.
Every time, always correct.
Screen,
Rose's
what I'm
words
building.
don't shrink. Who in your life
The
has been a
line I
credible
return to
witness,
most,
saw what was happening
you are someone I
accurately,
am glad I built
responded
something
with the
for.
seriousness it deserved,
Not,
no drama,
I am
no
glad I
making it
could
about
help.
themselves.
In a
Or
desk
are you
drawer.
trying to be that person?
What makes love specific is
Comments.
attention over time.
Almost at the
Specific
end.
love requires time,
Last thing
attention,
to
and
tell you.
action.
Then
Specific
back to where
love
we started,
requires
the same kitchen,
decades.
the same
Rose
phone,
gave
the
specific
wrong
love.
venue,
The loop
but
beginning to
something is
close.
different.
We're back where we
That's the
started.
loop close.
The same
Last
kitchen.
Tuesday,
The
end
same
of call,
morning
Rose
after the
said,
wrong
"You
venue
are building
appeared on my
correctly."
phone. But look
I
at the
asked,
table.
"How do you know?"
Now there are 2
She said,
things on the table.
"Because your questions are about the people, not the outcomes." She has been
on the
watching
left,
me
the
build.
phone.
My mother-in-law
But now the
secretly changed my
restoration
wedding
email
venue
is on
3
the
days
screen.
before my wedding.
The right
she used my
venue,
name,
the
my
restoration,
booking
and the
reference,
list. What
her
was
own
fixed,
phone.
what I'm building.
She'd been building
That's
a
different.
parallel plan
In clip
for
001,
months.
I was someone who had just
That's where this
discovered her
began.
venue had been changed.
My grandmother is a
In
retired
this clip, I am
telecom
someone who
executive who
called
spent
Rose.
22 years
My mother-in-law
building
tried to
clean,
change my venue.
documented
My
mutual
grandmother made one phone
relationships.
call. By
She was the
morning,
right
it was
person to
reversed. And
call.
I am someone
I
who
called
knows
her.
now, specifically
Everything
documenting
else,
ready
what that
dials.
produces.
22 is ready act.
By morning,
I called.
venue
That's the
restored.
whole thing.
By the next week, network informed. By the ceremony, every vendor, chair,
The right
arrangement
venue is
exactly
secured.
where we chose.
Now to finish the
In
plan.
the garden, Marcus's grandfather had always driven past. That is
Rose
the verdict.
counts correctly.
What Rose
Her
gave
Rose
me
list
was
tracks
not
what
a phone
matters.
call. It was
I am
22
learning to
years
count
of
what
correct
matters.
behavior made available as one
The
act of
22
witnessing on a
years
Tuesday night.
is the word count.
The
Everything
call,
else is
8
delivery.
minutes.
She
The
asked.
preparation,
She waited
22
2 days
years.
for the answer.
Both are the gift.
Then she planned.
The Rosewood Estate
She
in
waited
Oak
2
Park,
days for the
where
answer.
Marcus's
She planned
grandfather
after.
drove
That's the
past
sequence.
as a boy,
The
where we
sequence
got
is
married,
correct now.
where the Mills plan
Month
ended,
10.
where
The list is
Rose's
at 23
22 years
people.
were spent.
I've sent 21
That's
articles.
what the place
5
means
people
now.
have told me an article
My
or 2
desk
no,
left
but like
what
how
Rose
big
did.
comments she's the same day
Center what she said I
connection.
was worth.
9 out of 9.
Write why the venue
For
mattered.
Rose's 75th
Screen what
birthday,
I'm
we
building.
drove to Naperville with the restored
That's the
full
whole
staff
story
photo.
on one desk in a Chicago apartment.
I knew
The
half
line
would
I
be
returned
useful
to,
and half
"You are someone
disappointing.
I am
was right
glad I
about
built
both.
something for." Not glad I helped, glad the building had a purpose. The most specific love I have ever received. In a desk drawer. Specific love, paying enough attention over enough time to know what you'll need before you need it, then preparing. General love doesn't require attention. Specific love requires decades. Rose gave specific love. Back where we started, same kitchen, same morning, same blouse, same table. But look at the table. In clip 001, just a phone with the wrong venue. Now 2 things on the table. On the table, the phone restoration email, on screen, right venue, and beside it, the Rose list, open to a new page. The restoration and the list. What was fixed? What I'm building. That's what's different. Clip 001, just discovered the venue change, hadn't called Rose yet. Now called Rose, married at the right venue, 19 people on the Rose list, know what specific love looks like. Same kitchen. Different person. My mill tried to change my venue. Grandma made one call. By morning, reversed. And I know now specifically, documented, that when something was taken from me, someone built 22 years was ready to act. My grandmother made one phone call. 22 years of building, 8 minutes on a Tuesday night. By morning, everything where it was supposed to be. She built it for me. I am building it for whoever comes next. Rose counts correctly. I'm learning to count what matters. The real word count in this story isn't the clips, it's the 22 years of building that made one phone call sufficient. Year 1 nearly complete, thermostat negotiation with a blanket solution, Sunday breakfast routine, Patricia communication system, mutual workspace respect, a shared calendar that actually works. I could not be prouder. Patricia's summer barbecue, group text, what would you like me to make? What time works? She waited 2 days for the answer. Then she planned. She asked. She waited. Then she planned. Sequence correct. Month 10, 23 people, 21 articles sent, 5 useful connections generated, 2 earned third criterion entries, and 9 out of 9 same-day call returns. My own record. Rose, 40 years. I 10 months. I understand the distance. For Rose's 75th birthday, we drove to Naperville. I brought the restored full-staff 20-year anniversary photograph. She looked at it a long time. Said, I knew half would be useful, half disappointing. She was right about both. She put the photo on the mantel, then took me to her desk and showed me the directory printed, in binders. Said, start reading the first binder, just to see what you're inheriting. I am on page 42. Page 42, Sandra, a conference venue manager, Rose, has known 18 years. Entry note, reliable, understates her knowledge, caught a billing error once and called before Rose noticed. Third criterion, 18 years. The directory is not a contact list. It is 40 years of specific attention paid to specific people. Every entry, someone Rose watched long enough to know. Every page, a relationship that earned documentation. A record of witnessing. I want to tell Rose Tuesday, I'm on page 42. I understand, Sandra. The directory is the most useful document I have ever held. She'll probably say, good. Then tell me about Gerald. Gerald now teaches Thursday morning sessions at the library. Rose asked if he'd help newer seniors. He said yes. He's teaching 3 people. Rose taught Gerald. Gerald is teaching 3. That's how a network grows. Full circle, Rose witnessed, spent credibility, Fix led to David's connection, connection led to tablets, tablets led to Gerald, Gerald teaching 3. 1 credible phone call. 5 layers of consequence. I'll tell whoever comes next, build correctly, not for appearance, not for accumulation. Reliability is worth more when you spend it than when you save it. When someone needs what you've built, use it, don't calculate. Marcus said, you're building something that matters more in 20 years than now. I know that's the point. He said, I'm going to build one too. I said, what will you call it? He said, mine. That's right. Patricia will never know. Her call to the Rosewood led to a call log. The log led to a flag. The flag led to a corroborating report. The chain led to 12 library tablets. And Gerald teaching 3 seniors. The loop begins with wrong venue on the phone, ends with right venue on the phone, and Rose list beside it. The kitchen hasn't changed. What changed? What I know about who is in my corner and what they built. Last question, not about who wronged you, not who helped fix it. This one, is there someone you are building for? Someone for whom you are trying to be the right call at the right moment? What and for whom? Rose said, you know what's different about the people in my directory? They would have called me before I called them. Every one of them. They didn't wait to be found out, they found themselves first. Final 60 seconds. I want to say what I said at the start, but now you know everything that's under it. The loop closes. 3 days before my wedding. 1 phone call. 22 years. 3 days before my wedding, my mill called my venue and changed everything. My grandmother made 1 phone call. By morning, it was all reversed. You heard those words at the start. Now you know what's in them. Marcus is working, talking through a problem at 7 and past the no talking rule. I've made an exception. He doesn't know yet. That's the marriage. Small exceptions made with affection. Building something. Right now, it's Tuesday. Rose is at the library. 10 seniors. 12 tablets at the front of the room. Explaining something. Precise. Patient. Building something that will outlast the morning. That's Rose. Always. Patricia is somewhere planning something right now. Will she ask before she acts? I don't know. 9 months of therapy says maybe. The spring dinner says maybe. Maybe is more than before. That's her last image. The Rosewood is open right now. David Chen probably in his office. The coordinator at her desk. They don't know this story is being told. The call log from last September is still in their system. Records exist. Marcus just went quiet. He figured something out. He works through problems verbally, then goes quiet when the solution arrives. The quiet means it worked. That is also Marcus. Year 1. I am at my kitchen table. Rose list open. Directory on page 42 in my bag. A call at 11 with a Rose list person. The restoration email in my office. The 1958 photograph beside it. This is now. She built it for me. I'm building for whoever comes next. If someone is building for you, I hope you know. If you are building for someone, it matters especially when no one is noticing yet. Especially then. 3 days before my wedding, wrong venue on this phone. Right now, the right venue in my email, the restored booking. Saved. Filed. Rose would approve of filed. My mill changed my venue. Grandma reversed it 1 call. 22 years of reliability, built because Rose noticed herself even before anyone else did. And I am someone she chose to use it for. That's the story. What I carry, quiet preparation, is the most powerful response. I have been witnessed accurately by someone who built the credibility. I am building 1 entry at a time toward doing the same for someone else. Clip Do01, wrong venue, no call yet. This clip, right venue, call made, list building. 1 Tuesday night. 1 phone call. Grandma Rose. The loop closes here. And the last line is for Rose. Grandma Rose, you built it correctly. You spent it on me. I am spending my time building correctly so that someday for someone I can do what you did on a Tuesday night. That is the whole goal. My grandmother made 1 phone call, 22 years of building, 1 Tuesday night. By morning, everything reversed. She built correctly. Spent it on me. Now I am building. That's the anchor. That's where this ends. Every word in this story, under 20 words per clip. Not an accident. Rose, say exactly what you mean. No more, no less. Every word counted, every clip exact. Build precisely. Say precisely. Act precisely. The switch and its reversal produced a marriage that started right, a grandmother whose credibility was confirmed, a network that activated correctly, a Rose list building, and a granddaughter who knows she's worth building for. She built it correctly for 22 years and spent it on me on a Tuesday night. I didn't have to earn it in the moment she had. The only thing I had to do, make the call. Everything else is what preparation produces. She built for me. I am building for whoever comes next, 1 entry at a time, 1 Tuesday at a time, 1 right call when it's needed. That is the whole plan. That is the whole inheritance. Build correctly.